and then it's game over.
Game over. We just looked at the video. I don't know if you saw it, Ken. It looks like it hits him somewhere in the upper part of the chest. We slowed it down. You see his shirt kind of like blow up. But the one thing, and Scott Cepicky's in here, one of the things, because he and I were both watching the video of Charlie Kirk, who got shot in Utah a little while ago, is it doesn't look like it came from anywhere close by because everybody looks behind, and it's a massive crowd, like it came from far away.
That's correct. So hopefully he's okay, but looks like he got shot maybe above his left upper chest, above his pec, right in there.
Yeah.
Which is there's nowhere good to get shot.
No, but hopefully he'll be fine. So we'll see. We're monitoring everything.
And where he's speaking, it looks like it's kind of down in a bowl, if you will. There are buildings all around, so somebody could have been on a roof or something like that.
That's what you said. You said because it's one of those things where there was almost like a 2-story parking garage. Mm-hmm. And it looked like somebody could have been on that because it's a big crowd. It's a few thousand people. So this isn't one of those ones where you normally see them. There's just a couple hundred. It was a big crowd, and it's in Utah. So
in Utah,
we'll see. We'll see what's going to happen, and God bless him. We wish him the best. Pray for him, and we'll keep you guys updated. What's happening, Scott? Scott Cepicky's in here.
I was listening on the way over. You were talking about mental health, and one of the things that we are working diligently on in the General Assembly for the next session coming up in January is how to address this issue of facilities, right? We got to have places for people that are struggling in life to be able to go to, inpatient.
Yes.
And so the Trump administration about 3 weeks ago released a grant proposal and a grant program for the states to be able to pull money down to help us build mental health facilities across our state. And so we're looking into that. We're waiting for the rules to be promulgated by the federal government on how to apply for it and how to use it and what it has to be. But, I think it was Ronald Reagan that when he was in office did away with all these facilities. And I get why, right?
The whole thought was, if I'm correct, Carter and they had come up with a plan where they were going to start to close these facilities, and they were supposed to set up, instead of having a state hospital, every small city was going to have their own. So it wasn't just one facility up in the middle of nowhere. Mm-hmm. It was going to be, and it, like everything, just like when they went and Reagan's like, all right, we're going to do amnesty once, and then we're going to fix this problem. They never did.
Right.
And they didn't do anything with that. And,
follow through.
Yeah. And look.
So one of the things that we're looking at is one, is this going to be a state or is it going to be a private-public partnership? Are we going to let the hospitals get involved with this? Are the hospitals going to be able to pull the money down to build these facilities? But we all realize, like we just saw today with Charlie Kirk, when you are willing to look down a barrel at another human being and squeeze the trigger, there's a mental health issue 100%.
Absolutely.
And so we've got to have places for these people that are not only a danger to themselves, they're a danger to society, like we saw in Charlotte.
Yep.
That individual should have never been on the street.
No.
Never. And I think on the criminal justice side, I know that the leader, Lamberth, and others are working on looking at how we do our magistrates and what are the qualifications for them and how do we make sure we have accountability of those magistrates that they understand what the law is and what their job is supposed to be.
Yeah. And we can't ask, and as you were listening, the largest mental health facility in America is the Twin Towers jail in Los Angeles. Mm-hmm. You can't ask sheriff's department that have a few orderlies and one or two doctors throughout the day to treat hundreds and thousands of patients over the space of a week. That is too much for anybody.
That's
and
correct.
we're relying on cops across the board to be mental health, to be marriage experts, to be to look for child abuse, to do all of these things. It's impossible to do, and we're asking. We can't just say you may have schizophrenia, but there's no room at the inn.
Right. One of the things we have to look at, and if you go back to when Reagan and Carter were doing this, we all know of the atrocities that were happening in these facilities.
Yeah, that's the other side.
But now everybody has a camera, and so there's more transparency involved there. So I think we can get to a place where we build these facilities that has people that maybe we can salvage a life. Maybe we can get a life turned around and get them through their problem to get them back integrated into society. And then there's those individuals that unfortunately just probably have to spend the rest of their lives being cared for.
And talking to Scott Cepicky, he's in here. He's running for re-election, but we've got a lot of stuff.
No, I'm not running for re-election yet.
Not yet. Not yet. I broke it, but not yet. But maybe. But probably. But the whole thing about some of these people, the drugs have gotten to the point where they're never going to, they're a danger to themselves. Some of these people, they've got mental health problems, and you can work through it, and it will take some time. And nobody should be living on the streets, urinating in the corner, talking to a tree, sleeping in frozen, underneath 12 blankets, or, outside and sleeping with no shirt on because it's 120 degrees outside. That is not a way for, if we care about humans, that's not a way for a human to live their life.
That's correct. There's a program that we look at in Tennessee. It's continuum of care. It's wraparound services for those that can't help themselves. And one of the things I ran a bill this year, Chad, is to try to figure out how are we doing it and are we doing it well?
Yeah.
And we're waiting for that to come back in January. We'll get a report on that, and then we can kind of look at, okay, what do we need to do to fix this problem? It's not just Nashville. It's all over the state of Tennessee. It's all over our country that we have these group of individuals that are kind of like in the shadows.
They're fringe. They almost don't exist.
And you drive by them, and you try not to look. But these are individuals that maybe through some help, maybe through some drugs and getting them on the right prescriptions, that we could maybe start to salvage some of these lives and get them reintegrated back into society to live normal lives, right? But once again, there's those individuals that have crossed over the line that are just going to be harmful to themselves and harmful to society, that we have to make sure that we can keep tabs on them in a safe facility.
Yeah, I mean, this guy in North Carolina, he thought that his sister was controlling him, and then he thought that girl was controlling. He still thinks she's controlling. He's controlling. He's not there.
No.
And his mother knew that. His brother begged them to keep him in there. And we do have to do a better job, like you said, with the magistrates, because I don't think, we was talking earlier, most people don't know. 32 states, you don't have to have a law degree.
Correct.
By the way, to be in the Supreme Court, you don't have to have a law degree.
Correct.
You also don't even need to be a citizen. Most people don't even know that. Mm-hmm. So we've got to do a better job. Now, we don't have that. Obviously, you've gone to Harvard. Very few people go anywhere but Harvard or Yale or somewhere like that for law anymore. But we need to do a better job at the local level. And because we have magistrates, it's just an easy way to have the conveyor belt, because that's what it is in a lot of occasions.
Well, you have to figure out a way from the sheer volume, right?
Yeah.
Why do you have the sheer volume? And I can transition to give you, Chad, about 2 hours on education, on why these people coming through the system are lacking education. People who have education normally don't wind up in the system because they have other alternatives besides crime. And the ones that are well-educated that wind up in the system are usually doing something to try to cheat the system, and they get caught.
Yeah.
Bernie Madoff, for example, right? Brilliant individual, tried to cheat the system and eventually got caught. So a lot of challenges we have to look forward to, unfortunately, that we have to figure these out. And it has to be sooner than later because, the hardest thing about watching the Charlotte thing was the lack of response. What has happened to our society? This young lady, and nobody helped her.
It's a weird thing because there are several people on there because, it's a train, so they're looking in another direction. They have their headphones on. They're oblivious to the world, by the way. And they got up and they walked out. They never knew anything happened. But there were other people that just looked to put their head down.
Yes.
And that, to me, first of all, you weren't worried about yourself. Like, if I don't look, it doesn't exist. Right. I was fascinated by it. It's a sad statement in the world we live in where, yes, I can understand there would be some fear, but you know what? You got to overcome that. And you got a woman there that it's bleeding to death who didn't do anything, escaped the hell of what's going on in her country, and nobody did a thing. A woman sitting next to her didn't even move.
You watched the video, and maybe it's a question. I think there's a lady in red, if I remember right.
Yeah.
Did nothing.
She's sitting right
next to her.
Yeah.
And I think she was sitting at an angle facing her. So she saw the man get up and do something, and then the lady, and when she slumps over in the chair, what happened to human compassion to go up and say, "Are you okay?"
Yeah.
And maybe could have saved that lady's life.
Yeah, because a lot of people think that, if I could have seen that, I could. You couldn't, because it was
fast.
It was so fast. It was the kind of thing you'd see on The Wire inside a prison. But you could have been there to try to get the guy away and to stop the bleeding. And when you watch it, it is horrible because she looks up and the sheer terror and the shock. And then just like in the movies, within seconds, the blood's already, and then she's down, and she's starting to move. And people can't be bothered.
Nothing.
Well, just like when that guy lit that girl on fire in the New York subway. People just walked by like that's a normal thing.
That's one, and I will argue this. One of the biggest problems we have in our lives is this thing right here in my hands, this cell phone, because you bury your head in it.
Yeah.
And you know what? Try a day. Challenge it, right? Take a day where you put the cell phone down. In the old days, right? When I drove to work, you had to wait till I got to work to talk to me, right? Just take a day where you just leave your cell phone at home and live a day without it and try to engage people and say hello.
Yeah, I would
just say hello. I'll tell you what, we ran the recess bill. We ran the cell phone ban
which
bill.
I love, by the way.
Incredible results in our schools. Kids are talking to each other again. Incredible.
Do you remember the first school that did that was in Florida? And they were like, you know what's weird is kids are nicer. They're talking to each other. They're engaging. They've got more smiles on their face. The anxiety's gone down. It is
human interaction.
I walk home, as I do most days, go through the roundabout. I will pass 10 to 15 young men and women who are leaving Vanderbilt, running by, working out. Not one person will say hi, and nobody will look up. The only people that ever say hi are the tourists who usually look completely lost.
Yeah, and they're looking for help.
Yeah, or they'll just, hey, how's it going? Because they're just excited to be here.
Correct.
And I'm like, when did we get to that point we can't even engage each other, Scott?
We have an event down in Murray County called First Fridays. It's on the square in Columbia. And it has transformed our community where you go down there on a Friday, all the businesses are open, all the vendors come down there. And what it is, it's people just walking around saying hello to their neighbors. If it was a snapshot of what life used to be in small communities where people come up and say, hey, Chad, how you doing? Haven't seen you in a while, right? And just have a conversation.
Oh, that's so weird.
It is incredible to watch. And we need more of that in our lives, more interaction with people, more eye contact with people, talking to people. I tell my boys all the time, I said, those in your generation that can learn to speak publicly will control everything.
Well, you'll have a good shot if AI doesn't take everything away from you.
Yes. Venezuela,
we're going to talk about that coming up in a little bit because I'm curious to get your take because you were there in the chaos, and I think Venezuela is next up when it comes to what we're doing there. I mean, now we have the Department of War, and they've got 4,000 Marines off the coast.
Yes.
And by the way, if you guys hear this is about drugs, it's about all the natural resources. There's plenty of them there, as you know.
I'll go down the list for you.
Yeah, and there's plenty of them there. And in fact, there is one of the generals was just talking about how important this region is because of, you got the triangle of this when it comes to this natural resources, and you've got all this oil, and then Guyana's got all this.
If you had a strong ally there,
yeah,
it could be really good for South America.
It could be.
Be really good.
It could be really good. But, we've also stomped around there for how many years, and things have not really.
58.
Let's be
I'm 59.
Real. You and I know this. We haven't set the bar really high when we've gone in there and tried to do some things, and things fell apart a little bit. We're like, ooh, that didn't go well. Our CIA, you guys know who you are. Scott Cepicky's here. We're going to talk about. He's not running for re-election, but maybe, kind of, but sort of. Maybe it broke some, didn't mean to, but could have been. Whatever. We know he is. We're going to talk to him about Venezuela coming up, and we're going to let you guys know. And you guys are texting it. Charlie Kirk has been shot. The neck, the chest, we're not quite sure. Now there's a lot of videos out there, and it definitely looks like it's coming from, and I don't know, you've seen any of the videos, Ken, besides that one? It looks like it's coming from further away. It wasn't somebody who walked up to him.
Right. It's coming from further away, and again, he appears to be in some sort of courtyard in between a number of buildings, and there are all kinds of places on top of these buildings where somebody could be.
Yeah.
And that appears to be where the shot may have come from.
Yeah. So it's a nightmare. We'll keep you guys abreast of everything as it comes in. Ken will have the latest for all of that. Scott Cepicky's in studio with us. We'll get back to him. We got a lot of stuff still to talk about. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 99.7. Scott Cepicky here with us. We're keeping you guys abreast on what's going on with Charlie Kirk, who's been shot in Utah at an event. And Ken's got all the breaking news. Somebody just texted in. They said they want to thank you, Scott, for being actively involved in the community. And they've seen you out there at First Fridays in Murray County and, shaking everybody's hand, saying hi, which is what it's. You know what made me smile a couple weeks ago? We were in Walmart for something, and they're trying to sell phones. And I said to the lady, I said, what's your most popular phone? And she goes, oddly enough, for kids, like the 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds, she goes, flip phones. These kids are all coming in and they're buying phones where they're not connected to the internet. They can still kind of text to each other, but there's not the pressure.
Yes.
Which is
huge.
Massive.
That's it. That's where we need to go back to.
Yeah.
Where my phone is for communicating with somebody. Period. That's it.
It's not a phone.
And then talk to people. Just talk to people.
You know, tomorrow we're going to have Afton on, and because I'll have anybody on.
Belle's girlfriend.
Yeah. Belle loves her.
Here he comes.
Yeah.
Wake up, Belle.
Yeah, Belle. I wonder who he's voting for. Like, I love you so much. I would totally vote for you.
Would you stop it? Everybody knows I'm an AOC guy.
Yeah, well, everybody, yeah.
Oh,
except for
golly.
you got a shot with Afton, said nobody. Having a conversation, man. That right there in politics, we don't do that. We're even with the thing that's going on in North Carolina. My frustration is stop being about her and who could take the craziest wild. Who could they protect and blame? Who could they say this is about this? And you, like you said, you're a policy guy. I love I want to find a solution.
Well, that is the job that I have in the General Assembly is solutions. Find a problem, fix it, and then move on to the next problem. And eventually you run out of problems to fix. And that's the goal.
Wasn't that the goal?
That's the goal.
That's
and then
what
we
I
all
love.
live together under the umbrella of the Constitution, and it's protecting everybody, and everybody lives a good life, and we try to excel to be the best we possibly can. That's it. That's why we have such a vested interest in trying to get Memphis back online.
Yeah.
It's killing us right now. It's killing people down in Memphis.
It's
And I have a vested. My son goes to the University of Memphis.
There's a perfect example. Like everybody's, Trump will come out and say it's like, and DC's more dangerous than Iraq. Well, that's not true. Come on. Nobody be walking down. It's the most dangerous city in America. It's not. Memphis is way more dangerous. And because of politics, because Lee hasn't asked him or whatever. But Memphis is a perfect example. It's a blue city that's been run into the ground. And there needs to be a fix. And they need to be honest. But honesty and polish today, they don't mix the way it used to.
Well, it's Memphis being run into the ground is not a true representation. It was run into the ground, put up on blocks, and the tires were taken.
That's right.
Right?
It's not quite Detroit, but it's getting there.
I mean, they've stripped it down pretty bad. But I'm a big 10th Amendment guy.
Yeah.
And we've got to be careful sending federal troops in the city. Now, Washington, I get.
Well, that's because it's a federal.
That's right. But in our cities, the governor should have to ask for federal assistance, and then the federal assistance can come. And by the way, you want law enforcement doing law enforcement, right? You don't want the military doing law enforcement. The military can provide logistics and security, right? They can help in the jails, right? They can help in logistics, traffic, things like that. But you want law enforcement going into these areas where you want to put a bigger presence in to get like an Orange Mound, right? I want Memphis PD in there because they don't have to be in Bartlett or Collierville or Germantown because the military's out there just making sure everything's okay.
And if you need a surge, we've got TBI. You can get other
FBI.
People. You want, and I keep telling everybody this, the beauty of our Constitution is because we have states' rights, we have these things. There is that separation. Mm-hmm. We don't want troops out there, partially because it's for show more than it is anything else in a lot of ways. And the second thing is they're not police.
No.
Police, they do a different job. You're in the military. You're there to smash and attack. You're there for police. You're there to police. It's a much different situation.
It's different, and you have to have the different nuances of how to talk to the public, right? The military is a blunt object. It's made to go in to just oppress and get control, period. End of the story. That's their job. That's what they're trained to do. The police force is, okay, protect and serve.
Yeah.
And that's a different type of job. And now, if the governor says, hey, it's reached a point where we need help, that's the governor's purview and that's the governor's decision. But until then, the governor could take the Tennessee National Guard at his purview and send it down to Memphis to provide logistical support to Memphis PD. Or he could send the THP down there, or he could send State Homeland Security down there, or TBI. There's a lot of levers we can pull.
They could even bring in TEA. They can bring in the ATF. They've done that. New Mexico, Michelle Lujan, she got a call from 2 cities that had become just a danger zone, and they said we need the guard, and she got the guard and stuff to go in there to have a show of force to bring in ATF and a bunch of other people because they asked her to,
But she sent the New Mexico National Guard.
The New Mexico
under
National
her
Guard.
control.
Under her control, but it was one of those things where there was, like if Memphis really wanted to, and I continue to say this too, you're not going to fix the problem by voting in the same people that only come around every 2 years to get your vote and then say they'll fix the problem next time.
That's correct. To help you out there, over the last 2 years, I think we've added over 150 state troopers in Tennessee. We have the manpower, and woman power for that, but manpower, right? We have the manpower to be able to send more help to Memphis to get their situation under control. We have the ability to send law enforcement down there, more law enforcement to help out. And I think what's going to have to happen is Memphis is going to have to realize they've reached a tipping point where they got to ask for help. And we're willing to provide it. This isn't a Democrat-Republican issue. This is a public safety issue.
Absolutely. That's what it should be.
Because when a bad guy comes up to you, he doesn't ask you if you're a Democrat or Republican, right?
No.
He just robs you.
Yes.
Or does worse things like we saw on that train, right?
Yeah.
So
Scott Cepicky's here. We've got a lot more to talk about. We can talk a little bit about Venezuela. We're going to keep you guys up to date. Ken's got the latest. If you guys haven't heard, Charlie Kirk has been shot in Utah. We don't know how bad it is. I mean, a lot of you were texting in, said, I've seen this, I've seen that. I don't know, and I do believe it looks like in a few of these videos they may have gotten the shooter already, but it is definitely a fluid situation, so we'll have the latest on that coming up straight ahead. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 997. Wow. We are monitoring everything. A lot of stuff coming in about Charlie Kirk. Shot, looks to be in the neck. A lot of people have, said he couldn't survive. Let's hope for a miracle. It is horrific. I don't care what your politics is. I don't care, how you, think I'm right about this or the fact that people would think that this is an okay way to act is just insane. And we will keep you guys abreast throughout the day. Ken will have you updated, and when Matt comes in, I'm sure he's going to be covering this story as well. Scott Cepicky's here with us. We're talking about a lot of stuff. Before we get to the Venezuela thing, it's nerve-wracking, man. You're in the public eye, and people nowadays, a lot of the hyperbole and the red, they don't understand that a lot of it is show, and some of it, they take it way too serious and literal because a lot of it is kabuki theater. And then people do, stuff like this because you're not going there. This isn't a mugging somebody on the side of the road. You went there specifically for this, which is scary. Do you worry about that? I mean, you're ginormous, so I think it just bounce off you. But
I'm aware of where I am.
Yeah,
I'm aware of who's around me. I'm aware. I watch people very intently. I watch eyes. Eyes give away a lot of demeanor with people and intensity. And then I listen to tone of voice. I mean, I've had people screaming at me on the walking into the house, right, in the chamber, and I'll stop and I'll say, okay, you got me here. What's your issue? And they can't tell you.
No, they're
just so mad. And I'm like, okay, you've got somebody that can push the button, yes or no, right? What's your issue? And they can't. They just get so ginned up by people that they just lose their and you've been around people where they're screaming at you and they've just lost their control. And we have to be, as elected officials, you have to be careful with your rhetoric. You just don't have carte blanche to go out there to get people ginned up, to get them ginned up.
Yeah.
You are supposed to be somebody that the people look to and hire to address the problems that they face on a day in and day out basis and come up with good, positive solutions. The solutions we have are never, well, this is a Democrat or Republican solution. It's supposed to be a solution for 7 million Tennesseans, that they can live their lives better. That is the job we have, doing things that allow people, sometimes not passing a law, right, and sometimes passing a law. And you have to have the discernment to know whether or not this is good for 7 million people or, you know what, we shouldn't be doing this. And say no. And convince enough of your colleagues to say, no, this is a bad idea. And this year in the General Assembly, I've never seen it happen more on the House floor than I saw this year, where members of the House were going, this is not, even though it's a Republican carrying it, It's not a good idea.
Yeah, which is, you know what, I applaud people that are willing to stand up and say, this isn't for the best. This is maybe the best for you, or this is going to get you the most likes and clicks, or maybe the certain amount of the base is going to cheer you on. But the reality is, for the 7 million, right? This isn't a good idea. And to be able to stand up and say that, I think it's a good. I think we need more people that are willing to be able to face the fact that sometimes you have to look at your own party and say, no.
Well, we need more of that in Washington. We need less tribalism in Washington and more people looking at, 300-something million now? We need people looking at this saying, okay, like I hear them talk about all the time, China this, China that, right? Let me tell you something. You know who the biggest threat to the Republic is? Congress.
Yeah, well, there's no doubt.
30-something trillion and counting, right? You and I were alive when we heard the first 1 trillion, right? And we were shocked.
If we count in, and I don't think people understand this, we're probably closer to somewhere between 70 and 100 trillion when we count in unfunded liabilities.
Correct.
And which
it is unsustainable.
You can't.
And so you're going to have people that are willing to go to Washington and say, okay, I have to start looking at this long term. How is our country going to survive unless we start making some choices that unfortunately may get you unelected? But the job isn't to keep your job. The job is to do what's right. And if you do what's right and you err on the side of the people will keep you there.
I love the do what's right, because it takes people with courage to stand up and go, no, we're not going to do this. You can get rid of me, but this can't happen because and my fear, and I think the founders' fear is, in today's world, especially with all the redistricting and the gerrymandering, depends on what side you're on. The reality is the general doesn't even matter. No. It's and so you run, you only have to, you may only get a 10th of what you may get at the general, but it doesn't matter. And because that's the most important.
My dad taught me a long time ago that one person's terrorist is another person's freedom fighter.
Yeah.
And you have to look at life like that, right? You have to look at the argument. I'll tell you this, and we got to talk about Venezuela, but 2 of the best votes I ever took in the General Assembly in 7 years was to say no to Ford and no to the Titans giving them money.
That's great.
They didn't need it.
No.
But we did. And that's okay. Hey, you know what? I took the vote. I lost. I move on to the next issue. I tried to argue that, giving a multinational corporation like Ford $1 billion and 20,000 acres in West Tennessee was a bad idea. They didn't need it. Well, I lost. And then on the Titans, they didn't need $500 million, but they got it. And hopefully it'll bear fruit to the 7 million people in Tennessee. You don't win them all.
No, you can't win them all. But you've got to be able to have the courage to stand up and go, what's right, what's not right. Scott Cepicky's in here. We are monitoring what's going on with Charlie Kirk. They're saying now he was shot from a campus building 200 yards away.
Wow. That's somebody who knows how to shoot.
That's somebody, that's not, so somebody was from a campus building too, not so much, I don't know.
That would have been somebody who would have had access to the building to get to a window.
Yeah.
And knew the window was openable.
Yeah, unless they're counting, I don't know, because it's when you see it, there's a lot of people out in the quad where he was shot, and we're talking a few thousand. And in one of the situations to the right of everybody, there looks to be, it almost looks like a parking garage.
Correct.
But when they pan around to another area, you see a lot of people in the parking garage. So who knows exactly where it came from? But just like we talked about when we first saw it, is everybody turned behind them. So it wasn't somebody point blank, because usually you think, you see a lot of these things.
Up close.
Yeah, up close. So we'll keep you abreast throughout the day on what's going on with there and update that. You played baseball in Venezuela.
2 years, 92, 93.
How was that?
My nickname was El Toro. My first year down there, I almost won the Triple Crown. They had in the middle of the year, they had a ban go out that if anybody threw me a strike, they'd be fined, because I was about ready to break the home run record held by a Venezuelan. But when I was there, it was a democracy. It was very wealthy, oil, and I'll go down the list real quick here of what. And people always ask me all the time, why Venezuela, right? Well, here's the reason why: oil, petroleum derivatives, natural gas, gold, iron ore, bauxite, coal, diamonds, coffee, cocoa, sugar, fruits, vegetable, fibers, timber, and tourism.
Yeah.
That's what Venezuela can bring to the table economically.
And the big thing is, we've done this in the past. See Iran, when we got rid of their back in the day when we got rid of their prime minister who wanted to pull away from the Shah, and he went and nationalized stuff. And, of course, the Brits and us go, well, we can't have that, so we need some of that. So this is a situation. They look at Maduro. They've got the biggest oil reserves in the world, and then you've got Guyana next to it that found a massive oil reserve of light sweet crude, which is the super important one for a lot of people. And you've got all of these offshore drills who are ready to get in there, and now Venezuela's like, that might be ours. So when you hear all the stuff about, we're going to have to go in there because of drugs, understand there's a lot more to it than just that, so don't be fooled by it. But the people are wonderful. One of my good friends, Edgar Muller, he is a pilot for Evia Air. He's just a great guy. Was born and raised in Venezuela, so is his wife. But he, after Maduro came in, it was subtle, but then eventually the tsunami was so big.
Oh, yeah.
And the way, because they don't come in and say, we're going to oppress everybody. Nobody does that.
No.
That doesn't win. But the way it changed and what happened.
So when I was down in Venezuela, it was the first coup attempt of Hugo Chavez that failed miserably. And the government came down extremely hard on those people, which probably even garnered him a little bit more support from the rural poverty regions. When Hugo Chavez got control of Venezuela, the first thing he did was promise everybody food.
Yeah.
Second thing he did was get their guns. And then he got control of the media. Once he got those three things, now you probably heard that before. I think it's called the Communist Manifesto.
Yes.
Once you get control of the food, the guns, and the media, and you keep the military fed, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, absolutely, got to keep
right. Keep the military paid and keep the military fed. That's what leads to what we've seen in Venezuela. Now, Venezuela used to be a country of 35 million people. It's down to 24 right now. That's how many people have either left or died in Venezuela since 2014. A mass exodus. And the problem with Venezuela is it's been a mass exodus of intellectual properties. People who were in colleges and universities, right? They left to seek a better alternative because they had the means to do it. The large oil companies down there, when Hugo Chavez took control, he seized all their assets.
Yep. He nationalized pretty much
everything. And so all these multinational corporations that invested billions and billions of dollars of oil infrastructure and mining infrastructure and timber infrastructure in one day were gone and offline. I remember when I was in Puerto La Cruz, which is on the eastern seaboard. That's who I played for, Puerto La Cruz. They were called the Caribes, the Indians. I remember a boulevard that wound down the beach, and I would see people out there with buckets of tile, and their job was to replace the tile. Everybody had work in Venezuela. And now the things that women are having to do with for their children is horrible.
Yeah. Their work nowadays is just surviving.
It's just surviving. Do you know that over 90% of the people of Venezuela suffer from malnutrition?
Malnutrition.
Venezuela, one of the most affluent countries in South America, is verging on a teetering of poverty and people dying in the streets from starvation.
It's about control.
Now, here's the question, right? And I've heard you speak, and how do we do this without putting our soldiers in the line of fire?
Well, you don't put 4,000 soldiers on a boat.
How do you do it? How do you bring enough economic pressure to a bunch of people that don't have the means to overthrow the government because the government keeps the military fed, right? I mean, it is a dilemma that we have to figure out, and hopefully common sense will come to play here, right? Economic sanctions. China and Russia are their main exporters right now. Okay, we've got to figure out a way to put a stranglehold on those two countries to cut the lifeline off to Venezuela to where now they'll come to the table and start talking to us. Maduro's a communist.
Yeah, and
he's a drug lord too.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a lot more than I think we're going to eventually get involved. I mean, just the people I've talked to, my military friends say you're not putting 4,000 people. You're not moving these people this close. It's not because of Puerto Rico. You took out a boat that's 2,700 miles away from our shores. You're sending a message, and you're probably going to do something. A lot of it has to do with Guyana and stuff like that because they don't want them over there. Venezuela's like, we don't want you guys here. So it's going to be interesting, no doubt about that. Good having you here, brother. I love it. Enjoy
pleasure,
it.
Man.
Love it, Scott. Cepicky.
Pray for Charlie Kirk.
Pray for Charlie Kirk. We're going to keep you up to date on what's going on. Ken's got the latest coming up, but Charlie Kirk was shot today in Utah at an event from about 200 yards away, and still no news on his...
He is in critical condition.
Critical condition. Okay, so that's what we know as of now. Chad Benson Show, Super Talk 997. It's all happening now. We got to Kids shot at a school in Denver. And if you're just joining the show, Charlie Kirk has been shot. He is in critical condition. I know there are other places out there reporting that he has passed. We do not know that, and we care about the truth. It's about being right in a situation like this. So we're going to be watching this all day. Probably not what you thought, Matt, was going to happen when you got in here.
No, and it's one of those situations where if you've seen some of the video, everything's videoed now.
Yeah.
Everybody's got, video recording devices right there in their pockets, and everybody becomes a videographer. And at any given moment when you have a crowd gathered like at Ohio Valley to hear Charlie Kirk speak and to speak back to Charlie Kirk, that's what it was all about. It was a free speech event, right? And there's going to be someone videoing at a variety of angles, and we're seeing a lot of that filter out to the internet. And
it's a tough watch.
It's a tough watch, and it is tough to contemplate how someone survives that. And
because when you really, this wasn't a 22 from, this
no,
was
it was a long-range rifle of some sort.
It is a very tough watch. And, some people have been texting, and I will say this. The internet and social media is always disappointing, and the things that people are saying are awful. The fact that we would celebrate anybody being injured and or potentially getting killed because you don't like their politics and you think they peddle in hate when they just disagree and have their own beliefs is asinine and stupid. And if that's the way you feel, you need help.
You do. I'm being told that our colleague Chris Hand, who is a part of the Turning Point Orbit, an organization started by Charlie, is saying to me that Charlie's wife and children were there.
Yeah, that's
at the event. And if someone can go online and act as if this should be a moment of celebration when you realize that a human being potentially has been killed and certainly has been gravely wounded in front of his wife and kids for speaking for enjoying a basic premise of this country.
And giving you the opportunity to enjoy that premise as well and celebrate that by having a discussion.
I was looking at my Twitter after all this news came out, and I literally saw somebody post that, now this is a school shooting that I can agree with.
It's disgusting. It's, and here's the thing. I find that person to be disgusting and repugnant and gross and irresponsible and nasty and vile and subhuman. And I would still defend that in this country they can say whatever they want to say. You can be as gross a person as you want to be. That's the point, is that we do not allow thoughts, beliefs, and speech to translate into violence, or at least that's the country we want to be in.
I mean, this is the beauty of the First Amendment.
That's right.
It's being able to open it up and let the steam out and let people have their voice. Because when you don't have that, well, then that's when the Second Amendment gets crazy. And we've got to have the First Amendment. You got to be able to disagree with people in a way that is humane. Matt's coming up next. He's going to have all the coverage. So is